Hello, I'm Alex Santos. I'm Chief Technology Officer at CyberIAM, and we are an identity security company. We've been in the market for about 10 years, specialized only in identity security across many vendors and across many different industries. And we're here to talk about why I believe that AI has no ethics and just the access is what matters for AI. I've been speaking to customers for the last year at least in many different industries, different sizes, and there's been this common theme arising where organizations are trying to implement AI, but hitting a block of, I don't know how to secure it properly. And if I'm the CISO, I don't want to be the blocker. And my point has been that AI security doesn't really exist. It's identity security because the AI itself can only do what it has access to do. We're going to cover today what the scope of AI engines are and the risks that they present. What could go wrong, some examples of that, what we understand of security pillars for AI solutions, and where you should begin. Firstly, why do we care so much about agents nowadays and how do they work exactly? So agents are simply applications that are not useful to you unless they access enterprise data. And the way to access enterprise data varies, but the emerging protocol right now, the emerging standard is the Model Context Protocol, MCP. But you also have AI that can access your data and your tools and your systems via other means like client credentials or local agents that can use CLI, for example. And every agent that is based on large language models is subject to a number of new attack vectors like prompt injection, jailbreaking, as you might have seen in the news. AI has no ethics, it has access because if something can ever go wrong, considering AI is a probabilistic system, if anything can ever go wrong, and it has access to do that, it will go wrong. In those examples, talking about what could go wrong, there's a few recent cases I was looking at recently. One of these was an AI that hallucinated a policy for a customer engagement with Air Canada, making the company liable to pay for something or to accept a discount that it wasn't originally intended to. Another example would be a customer convincing that they could buy a car by $1 instead of $60K, which was the actual price. Both of these cases are AI having access to data, policies, documents, and not having appropriate guardrails, not having appropriate management on what they can access, what they can decide, and what they can actually grant the customer. The most problematic case that is directly identity related is from Meta, where they had a support chatbot with access to their identity infrastructure where they could reset passwords for users and do email recovery procedures. And they were a victim of prompt injection. So we ended up having real accounts being compromised, like Sapphire's account, and also some maybe not so important accounts like Space Force officers and Barack Obama's old White House account. These are some examples of what happens when AI is not properly secured. The scope of AI solutions involves understanding that not all agents are the same. So you can start from the very simple, limited chatbots where I'm just chatting to an interface, getting information, doing research, which are probably what most AI users deal with on a daily basis. And then you move on to the right where you see agents that help you achieve tasks, execute tasks, because they have a little more access to your system. For example, Copilot, Cowork, Cloud Code. These will include coding agents because they have exactly that. They have access to your system and your files and they can make changes. If you move further to more of the platform side of things, what you have on the likes of Copilot Studio, Azure AI Foundry, AWS, all of those, you would find solutions that help you build agents that will execute full pipelines, full workflows across different data sets, across different systems. As you can see, the trend here is the more you move to the right, the more autonomous the solution is. And the last stage of that would be a fully custom-built solution from the ground, which is what a lot of enterprises are doing right now. These are solutions that my development teams will build, and by building those solutions, the risks are substantially different from what you have on the platforms that have a lot of guardrails in them already. Custom solutions with a whole different approach into the understanding of your development team, what the solution will have access to, and how can you put appropriate guardrails in place. So as we look at how agents move from being helpful tools to fully autonomous solutions, we have to look at different aspects of how we secure AI in organizations. The first of them being when you look at the tools that your workforce uses, your chatbots, your agents, everything that you can run locally or in platforms, to the coding agents, which are mostly used by development teams, it leads us to this one question: how do I enforce the use of sanctioned tools, the things that we have licensed, the things that we have full control of, and we have policies to help us manage them? On the other side of this, you have agents that we are building internally in the organization. And this doesn't include only the hyperscalers like AWS, Azure, or Google, but also traditional SaaS vendors like Salesforce or ServiceNow. And we also have, like I mentioned before, the custom AI agents, where development teams are building them from the ground up. They are no different from normal applications. They have the UI, they have servers and databases, but they are also powered by LLM models, which means they are subject to all of those risks before. If you think of the Meta example, that was a fully built solution that was subject to risks that they didn't consider, like prompt injection, having full access to identity systems. The question we have to ask ourselves here is, how can we build AI solutions securely? And there is an overlap on these two aspects of security, which are discovery and visibility. I can't manage what I don't know exists. I cannot apply governance if I don't know something exists, where it is, and who owns it. And how do I secure access to data? This applies to both sides of the equation, the things that my workforce is using and the solutions we are building. And as we progress looking at how to secure these solutions, the first pillar would be discovery and governance. What AI exists, who owns it, and should it exist in the first place? The second step will be looking at zero standing privileges as a principle. What is the agent allowed to access right now? What can he do right now? If it needs to escalate privileges, how can I make that happen? The third pillar will be runtime security, which just means what is the AI trying to do and should we allow it to do that? So this involves, for example, you have MCP servers you're connecting to. How am I managing access to MCP servers? What can the MCP servers do themselves? What users can do through those MCP servers? And the final piece, which is not traditionally associated with identity security, but has been coming closer and closer over the years, is data security. What data is exposed to AI and should it be exposed? For example, do you want agents making decisions based on minutes of meetings from 3 years ago? Do we want agents to have access to confidential information that could be leaked out to users that shouldn't see that? And now that we've looked at the security pillars for agentic solutions, we have to look at how to implement security. And you have a number of vendors in the identity industry already working on securing AI in their own unique ways, which means that the same way that customers are very unique, you have your own journey, you have your own ways of developing AI and securing AI. We have to look at where you are in the journey and how each of these vendors can help you, especially if you're already working with one of them for your internal identity security. What we can help with is understanding where you are and how you can take what you already have and leverage what you already have and might even be licensed for to take it to the next level and starting securing your AI solution, starting to apply governance. And as you work through that, we are happy to help on the next stage. Feel free to reach out to us for advisory on where you are in the journey, how the vendors can help, how we can help in an overall governance approach. How do you look at identity security being the pillar for AI? Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.